Hello there, welcome to another episode of World of Tanks with Ngani Titan. We're here on Live Oaks and I'm in the T95, the American Tier 9 tank destroyer, the Doom Turtle. I think it's my first game on Live Oaks on this particular vehicle. And I'm on the southern side, so I was with a bit of a dilemma because the question is, where do you go? I've got the slowest tank on the battlefield. While it's a very heavily armoured vehicle and in some respects would be an ideal choice to go up fighting in the town, I think that's what they were actually built for in the first place. They were built for close assault vehicles, but the problem is that by the time I'd get there, the likelihood is that any battle up around the town would be over, or I'd be in time to meet a wave of victorious Reds as they were coming down towards me. The other thing is about that particular town is that the blocks are quite small and it's very easy for people to come around the back of them behind you, so I thought maybe I'd be better off on the railroad. I might not get to the railroad in time, but I have a pretty decent gun and there are better opportunities for long range fire to people in front of me along the railroad than there would be in the town. And there's no artillery, so there's no particular reason to be worried about being on the railroad becoming a target for artillery, because this thing is there's going to be a magnet for artillery on any open map, and particularly when there is restricted movement like there is along the railroad section. You're generally confined to south and east of the railroad. So we have a Leopard PTA coming around here for no good reason. I mean, that kind of YOLOing is utter madness. He knew there were enemy tanks here. He had no idea how many enemy tanks here, just the ones. But he was outnumbered on the ones he could see, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm pretty sure 2 of those tanks were detected, and there was actually 3 or 4 tanks here, and he had no idea how many other tanks were likely to be here. And that kind of stuff is, I just don't understand why people do that. Yes, it's a fast tank, but it's not that fast, and you're going to be driving on the water, or on water. So we put a round into the Woozy 11111 and take away a fair chunk of his health points, and we bounce a shot from down the road from an E75, I think. And then the E75 actually gets a bit of cop on and realises that sitting there with his lower front plate exposed in front of a T95 is probably not the smartest thing he could be doing. Now, this is a very unlikely shot, but I have a go at sort of putting one through the roof of the IS-7. But it was a real waste of time, really. E75 thinks about coming up, but then changes his mind that AMX 13105 is going to be a bit of a problem. And I'd prefer if he was paying attention to something else before I stick my nose over the top. But the Woozy is back for more, and he's showing me his lower front plate, and I don't have to show myself to anybody else. But the AMX spots that I have fired and comes in, tracks me, and puts a couple of rounds into me, but then the Super Conqueror goes a bit mad. And the AMX decides that he's got somewhere else to be, that he needs to be. Now the Conqueror would be fine if he stayed where he was, but he isn't content with just being where he was, shooting the ridgeline. Conquerors are really good at shooting ridgelines. They've got very good gun depression and upper turret and upper hull armour. But going down into the other side, he's actually exposing some of his weak spots to the tank that he's fighting. So he's going to take damage. Plus, he's going to be under fire from the people behind him, like the AMX 13105 that just put a round into his ass. Now, I've pushed forward, partly because we need to be pushing, and partly because I don't want to be up on the high ground where lots of people can shoot at me. I'd prefer to remove or reduce the number of people who can shoot at me at any given point in time, and I'm seeing an opportunity here with the E75. But I'm a bit worried about the tanks behind me. They are really hanging back. Now, the actual E75 made a big mistake here. He was actually pretty well angled towards me. I didn't have a great shot at him there. But by moving forward, he exposed a lot more of his side. And I managed to put a round into him. So I did so at a fairly heavy price. I'm kind of a one-shot kill for him, though he is a one-shot kill for me. And I don't quite hit the commander's hatch properly there and put the round through it. But the tanks behind me managed to do. Now, they're probably the height advantage as well, so it's kind of plunging fire into the turret roof. So even if they didn't hit the commanding, or they might even have a shot at the cheeks of the turret. Now coming around here, I see an opportunity because the IS-7 is up on the railway bridge, which is actually a bad location. You should always stay away from that railroad bridge, no matter how good your tank is in terms of armour. Because again, you're stuck up on it. There's no, if anybody gets to your side, you're kind of stuck up there. You have to go all the way back while exposing your side. And if your frontal armour isn't great, you have no business up there either, because you're going to be shot from the front. That RU-251 is going to be a bit of a problem, and he's stopping me from advancing. Otherwise, I'd be able to put another shot into the side of the IS-7, but I'm afraid of showing the back of my tank to the 251. But he's after taking a massive hit there for showing himself again from the tanks behind me, and they are starting to push forward. So with the RU-251 retreating, I can afford to push forward, but it's actually too late, I think, to really affect the IS-7. Now, I should probably have sighted along that shot. I don't think I'd have put it through anyway. I don't think I was getting a good shot at him at that stage, because he was off the bridge and he was now able to angle his armour. So now he's below the ridge line and I won't have a decent shot at him at all. So I'm going to have to push right across. There's still not... Despite the fact that we've the enemy completely surrounded, they're actually holding up quite well in the north. Those couple of tank destroyers up in the north, with that heavy tank, are holding their own pretty well. Normally when Allied tanks get into the 90, was it A9, A0, B9, B0, into those buildings there on the top of that railway station, it's pretty much game over for the red team. But the tanks up there are actually holding their position quite well. So I feel it's necessary to keep pushing, even though I have pretty low health and there's a fair amount of risk involved. We need to keep the pressure on, because if they get the chance to beat off our attack up on the northern end of the map, then they can reinforce the tanks down here at the south. And that will be bad news for us, especially since our guys tend to be they're a bit overly cautious. Well, it's supposed to be 3 tanks now push forward. There's a tank destroyer out there at the edge of the swamp, but I have no idea what he's doing. He's not much use to anybody here. So I'm worried about the Stridwagon. He can take me out if he is pointing in my direction. I'd prefer somebody took him out. I'm willing to take my chances with the IS-7, because that's not a very accurate tank. And at this range, he would have trouble hitting me in a vulnerable spot. Now, if he hits me in a vulnerable spot, he will finish me. But the gun isn't accurate enough to guarantee that he'll be able to land a shot. And something came whizzing down there from further up the field. There are tank destroyers out there that are quite dangerous in the game. So there's a full health E100 on our side coming along here. So I'm willing to let him take the lead, but I'm also going to back him up as best I can. The enemy have actually won the northern edge of the map now. They've lost a heavy tank in doing it, but the IS-7 is making a big mistake here, really. In that he's not paying enough attention to me, and he's just showing me too much tank, and I'm able to take him out. Well, I'm not sure what he could have done. He probably should have retreated further earlier. The one thing we still had to our advantage, though, that would make the IS-7's position a lot more tricky, is that medium tank there at C5 has been in there since very early on in the game, and the enemy have failed to dislodge him completely. So that's been a great benefit to our team, because it has stopped them from reoccupying that hill. If the enemy had been able to reoccupy that hill after defeating the tanks to the north, our position would actually be a lot trickier, a lot more difficult, because we would have to now crest the railway line against hidden tanks. Now, I also think they made another mistake here, but it's completely understandable. They've had a tough and a fairly hard fought fight, but the Waffenträger of Panzer IV is far too close to the railway line. He should have probably headed as far west as he could have managed, to try and get cover, put a bit of distance between him to make use of the stealth of the gun, because he's a pretty fragile tank. If he shows up there at all, I'm going to blow a big chunk out of him. Now he can take the hit. He can take one hit anyway. The T110E3 is, well, he's locked up there in the houses. Now the trouble is, again, he's got the same problem. If he sticks too much tank out, there's going to be multiple tanks firing at him. He's got pretty good armor. I don't have a shot at him at the moment, but I will if he's out there still when I get the gun loaded. However, that drops short and goes under him. I don't think it even reached as far as him. It dropped short by a considerable margin. So I'd probably not. The T110E3 is gone. So will I get another shot off? Well, I suppose I have the gun loaded now. The Waffenträger is on the railway line, or on the road, the elevated road actually. So I managed to get a hit into him there. However, he's finished before the game is over. So we get 3 kills. So we do nearly 5,000 damage. Over nearly 3,000 assisted damage. It's going to be a pretty good result. So let's see how we did. Now I must say I was again a little surprised at the final result, because I have done over 5k damage in this tank before, and however this time I got an Ace Tanker, and I think it's the combination. It's the combination of assisted damage, the number of kills. Now the number of kills isn't huge, but I have managed to get a few kills. I often don't get kills in this tank because you tend to do a big amount of damage, and then you have a long reload, and somebody else, you leave them on a sliver of health, and somebody else finishes them off. Our team did very well here. We have 3 players with over 3k damage in the top 3, and the next guy down is nearly 3k damage as well. Whereas only the Waffenträger Panzer IV did well on the enemy team. So that's it, folks. It's not a tank that I expected to get an Ace Tanker in. It's one of these ones I think things have to align for you. It's not a tank that I would control the battlefield with, simply because it's just so slow, but it's got a very good gun, and if you can get them all lined up in front of you, you can do an awful lot of damage with this tank. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like and a share. Feel free to comment. If you have not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. I will catch you all again soon. Bye for now.